PKA 641 with our guest Ed Bolian from VinWiki.
Woody had a question a couple weeks ago that I think Ed can answer. We were talking about like cars that could get you laid and whether cars can just get you straight up get you laid. I guess the idea would be like, can you pull up in a car and just like a girl's gonna show enough interest and you're just gonna be like, yeah, it's fucking this and that and the other. I got 8 of them. Hop in.
It's a Ferrari testosterone. Do you want to suck my dick? And see if they say yes.
You know, the cars that I have certainly do not have that effect on women. So, you know, 10 to 15-year-old Italian supercars are not the answer. If you want to have a lot of conversations with, you know, 10 to 15-year-old boys at gas stations, that's certainly the key.
10 to 15.
Actually, tell me more about it.
That's it. Yeah. So that's but I would say that there are absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
Hey.
Not what I was looking for, but
is that a Tony Hawk skateboard?
The right vintage car for sure can work. So, you know, a great vintage Mercedes or Aston Martin or Bentley, you know, that could certainly have the effect of making you look cultured and wealthy for sure. Because that people
we just want a whore to get in. We're not looking for all that.
Oh, you don't want to find Mrs. Right. You just want to have a short term.
Mrs. Right now.
There you go. Those it's just going to be the latest, greatest, brightest color. I will say,
really,
the green.
I would have guessed not that. I would have thought girls can't tell a 15-year-old supercar from a 1-year-old supercar.
That's probably true, but the ones that have seen them on social media, the production of more modern cars is so vastly outnumbering the cars of even 10 years ago that they're a lot less familiar, and they do recognize that they're older just because they have you know, not quite as sharp lines or not as many vents or wings or whatever. So that's
stupider women, though, a very, very low class woman who will just
be.
She's kind of impressed that you have a car.
Right. Yeah. Any car was going to do the job, but that fast-looking car makes me more excited.
That started on the second try? That's not bad.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah, broken salvage title exotic cars, not necessarily the answer. But that's my specialty.
No, I would think you could get the job done with, you know, a $60,000-$70,000 car. I don't think you need a supercar, but I would think a supercar you could. And I think you'd have to shoot your shot a lot. You'd just have to drive up and down like a certain block in a certain like area. You go to Clemson or Athens maybe and just start making circles. I bet you get a lady in there in like 3 circles, no problem.
Is University of Georgia in Athens?
It is, yeah.
There's also like 3 other women's schools there. It's a real target-rich environment.
It's true, yes. But I'll tell you, I've had I don't know, a few dozen exotic cars for almost 20 years. And, you know, I started dating my wife the week after I bought a Lamborghini, but she didn't know, or I started a company that became the rental car company. But so I've never, ever had a girl approach me expressing interest that would be attributed to the car for really much reason at all. It's just, and I've probably driven 200 to 250,000 miles in exotic cars.
Yeah. You'd be the guy who'd know.
It's not a thing that happens. Unless there is something else about my persona that diffuses the natural,
I don't think so. You're a tall, handsome guy. You think you'd be making it work.
So it hasn't been on the agenda, but it's definitely not like a.
Could it be you're just not noticing? Are they just fawning left and right before you? And you just
I'm going so fast through, they're just falling into the streets. That could be a theory.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
But you know, our audience from an automotive perspective is like 98.5% male. So
it's the opposite here. It's all
significantly more female than our audience.
What is yours similar?
I don't know the metrics, but it's almost all hot young women.
Based on my sample size.
That's what Kyle tells him. I tell him
I get all my feedback about the show from Kyle directly. And I don't read the comments. I don't look at any forums. I just
the ladies love him.
No, there are no women listening to our show. If you were to correct to a percentage, 100% of our listeners are men.
I've been making car content for 6 years now, and about 2 months ago, for the first time, I had a girl approach me in public, ask for a picture. Not saying I'm going to send this to my boyfriend or my dad or something like that. That was the first time that ever happened. Yeah.
Has that happened to you guys? Have you, Kyle, Woody, have you guys been approached by a female fan for the purposes of I'm just such a fan of your videos, I need this photo?
Do you know how awkward it is when a girl comes and hangs out in your hotel room in bed with you for 40 minutes, just chilling, wanting to be friends?
It sounds like it has potential for fun.
There was a point when I was it was
suck my dick, bitch. They did it.
You know that scene where Dennis is how did you not know that the reason I invited you was because I wanted to have sex with you? He has that moment where it's how did you not know that's why I'm talking to you? I had that moment where I was how did you not know the reason I invited you to my hotel room and told you to bring alcohol at this late hour was that I wanted to have sex with you?
No, she thought you wanted to talk about guns and.
Oh, that was awkward. That was awkward.
I've never had a female fan just really enjoy my content. I have had female YouTubers try to use me for clout and get subs off me.
Okay.
But not anyone who just liked me.
no one with sincere enjoyment, but I have been wary of
I've been used a little, but no one's liked me.
Woody, you and Jackie were gonna start taking the bikes out on the road. Did that happen yet, or is that on
twice? Yeah.
All right. So to catch everyone up, Woody's been motorcycling forever. He's been super into the hobby over the last year, and he has wrangled his wife on into the hobby as well, getting her a motorcycle, training her up on it. They've mostly stayed inside the nest in their little community, but now she's taken to the open road, despite the fact that we had a little bit of a rough start in getting her license. And did she break her collarbone?
No, the bone didn't break, but the tendons around it did, and there was some deformation and surgical repair.
Yeah, a little surgical repair, just getting the license. So now we're on the open road together. How's that going?
A little bit of good, a little bit of bad. So on the upside, she's doing great. She's if you just watch her drive, aside from the fact that she's going 10 miles an hour under the speed limit, she looks competent. She's making her turns. There's never been a close call. What's not going well is she feels super nervous, incredibly nervous. She's gripping the handlebars. We have comms, so I'm don't forget to loosen up, stay loose, don't stress. Everything's fine. This is a straight country road. There's nothing to worry about. Just relax. And she's not relaxing. She even was at what point do I start liking this? And
that's a good wife right there. Oh no.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find this balance of not pushing her outside of her comfort zone, but not straight out laying the red carpet to Quittsville either.
Yeah.
So when the weather's just right, which has happened twice in the last week, I'm let's go out. And I take her on a drive. I plan it in advance, places where, for example, you can all imagine a country road with trees on either side and turns, and I don't want to make a left onto that where it has to go well, right? If she, for example, stalls it or drops it, that a bad thing could happen. No. All the turns need to happen at red lights where it's protected. There are people just zipping through, going after her and such. So I plan out routes like that so everything's a little low pressure, and it's been going great. She just isn't liking it.
Well,
that's very important.
I'm sure by
no, I don't stress that.
No, really
What's important is that I like it.
You think this is type 3 fun, baby?
It's a nice to have, not a need.
You're gonna look back on this later, even though you hate it now, and you're gonna be glad you did this for me.
Yeah.
Hey, if she got back on after an early injury, she's in.
She's definitely afraid of him.
Back on. That's crazy. When I was at the car dealership, every time we would hire a new guy, they would immediately buy a motorcycle because you didn't make enough money to immediately buy a supercar. But you go out and buy a $5,000 or $10,000 way too fast for beginner motorcycle. And we had one guy, Nick, that second week gets checked. I'm getting me a motorcycle. And he had never ridden a motorcycle, had no motorcycle license. But the way that the order of operations works in Georgia and in a lot of states is like, you don't have to have a motorcycle license to buy a motorcycle, because you need a motorcycle to get your motorcycle's license to take the test. And so if you don't borrow one, it's a difficult thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have a motorcycle's license to get a loan for a motorcycle. And you don't have to have insurance on a motorcycle to get a loan for a motorcycle without a motorcycle's license. So you can imagine that this could very quickly become problematic. And so Nick took delivery with no money down on some brand new motorcycle that he didn't even know how to do. And they brought it to the dealership for him. And so I hear him outside, like idling this thing around the end of the day. So they're just going to pull it in the shop, because he doesn't know how to drive it home. And they screech, bang, pow. And all of a sudden, they say don't ever sit on a running motorcycle without a helmet. This is why, because in a car, if you let go of everything, the car will slowly roll into whatever's in front of it if it's automatic transmission, or it'll stall if it's a manual. In a motorcycle, if you let go of everything, it will launch you into whatever is in front of you. And that happened to be a Porsche Panamera. And he broke the rear bulbous station wagon glass with his face. And I walked out. I was on the phone trying to do a deal, and I said, I'm going to have to call you back. And I walked out back, and the blood, he was looking down, and the blood was just dripping from his face. And so everybody's freaking out. The only guy who knew how to ride a motorcycle in the circumstance was mad at himself for letting him sit on his own motorcycle. And I took him to the emergency room. And it's one of those times where you get seen immediately in the emergency room, which is fun. And there's all these little kids with broken arms, and we are well in there. And 2 emergency room doctors came in, saw him, and said, nope, I am not stitching that up. And so the third guy, who's like the stitch superstar, he stitched on Nick for 2 or 3 hours. It was 80, 90 facial stitches. And they're pulling pieces of glass out. They pull out some of his forehead, and an ant walks out. I'm like, dude, you had a good story today. But that ant had a great story.
Yeah.
And, all right, minding my own business.
That's insane.
So what did you do with the bike after that? Did you ever take it to the open road?
Well, since he didn't have insurance, it couldn't really get totaled, but it was proper mangled. And so he ended up he never got his motorcycle license because he was at that point terrified from
Probably
it.
For the best, yeah.
I bet.
And so it was such a nightmare. So he ends up selling it to our body shop guy, who fixed it for a lot less than it should have taken. And he owned it, but no. And of course, he's just started working here, and we didn't have health insurance or benefits or anything like that. So he's racked up quite a bill in an emergent situation. And so we have to go to the financial counselor's office before we leave, because he told him he doesn't have insurance. So we had to self-pay, and they gave us an $8,000 bill for Nick's face. And I'm like, what if we paid it now? And they were like, oh, they were not expecting that and they came down to $2,000. And I'm like, I don't know, man, 2,000's a lot. I feel like we could do 500. And they're like, oh no, we can't do 500. They did $800. They took 90% off of his bill if we paid right there. And so we went to the Waffle House next door and celebrated, and he was all stitched up and bandaged up. And but no, he never got back on a motorcycle again.
Yeah, I bet not. That's scary.
Yeah, one strike.
Pictures of Jackie.
Circumstance.
So there it is. She's
that's
my
is that a Grom?
In the foreground. Yeah, it's a Honda Grom. That's
there you go.
She has 3 motorcycles. There's a girl who barely rides, and she has a
no pressure.
No pressure.
She has a Himalayan, which was her second bike. She also has a little 125 Honda dirt bike that she loves. She likes the little ones more than the full-sized one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's just easier to start with. And the other picture is a bit of a close-up. Yeah. So she is ready for a facial blow. Look at that. She'd be fine.
Exactly. She could hit any portion.
It's so less scary on a shorter bike. I got my license on a bike that's probably, I don't know, maybe not that low, because that looks very low.
It's called 3/5 size.
Okay. I was on a 300cc Honda, but it was a classic style, like that old Harley street bike style.
Maybe a Rebel.
But when I first got on my thing, it was much higher and much scarier. And of course, I like fell immediately.
Yeah, your bike is a real deal go fast bike. Like it's
That's not how I use it though. So
you just like to tool around town a little bit.
I want to look like I go
yourself.
fast.
He's not wearing out the outer edge of the tire.
And you do. I love those tassels you have on your shoulders. I love them.
I put tassels on the handlebars so that I'm more visible that way. Okay,
I do like that idea.
It's safety. I ain't gonna mace you. I ain't gonna tase you. I'm gonna give you these hands, son.